Okay, welcome folks to True North Insight. My name is Jill Davey and I'm one of the Dharma teachers with True North Insight. Thank you for joining us tonight. So the theme for the talk tonight was called Look Closely, and it's inspired by a little gift I received this past week from a dear friend. And I'll show you, it's this thing. Uh, it's called a loop, Loupe, and it has a little lens, and this one also has a light, which makes it super awesome. So it has a light inside of it, and it's so joyful. So I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. It's Loupe. So I don't know if you call it just a loop or a lupe or what. Maybe somebody can write pronunciation notes for me in the chat if you're familiar with this. But I think jewelers use them, and people that like collect gemstones and do things like that. This one has a 15 times magnification to it. And before we started the recording here in the Zoom room, people were sharing things that they had maybe noticed today. And one of them is something that I was also looking at. Somebody was sharing about looking at the crystals on their car window in the morning with the frost. And this device, I call it Lupe, but that's just because I've kind of given it that name. Is really great for looking at snowflakes, like especially when they land on the car or the frost and you can just see an individual snowflake. You put this thing right up against the thing and your eye right on it, and it's like, wow, very joyful and exciting. So I take Lupe on walks now, and I say, I'm taking Lupe for a walk. And like to look at moss and bark, tree bark and plants, and to look at my skin. I tried looking at my eyeball, that didn't work, which is a drag. I was looking forward to seeing that, but it didn't work because it was just reflecting off the mirror. And yeah, so it's been really joyful and exciting, and you know, as some were sharing this morning in things they noticed today, that even things that may be uncomfortable, like the cold wind, are kind of, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth, but they could be invigorating or almost interesting when we just turn to it with some attention. So this little device, this little loop. Thank you, Micah. It kind of inspired me to also look more closely in my practice, look more to as if I had that kind of lens, magnification, bright attention to look more closely at whatever the object is in my practice at that time, whether it's walking or the breath or eating. Yeah. Oh, and apparently you get these at what's that store called where they have all the cool things? Oh no. I start thinking Lens Mill, and it's not that. It'll come to me. It's like they sell garden things and woodworking things. Oh, okay. Somebody's gonna type it in here. I know it. Come on, crowd. Yes, team Lee Valley. Thank goodness I have a team here. Right on. Mikey nails it again. Lee Valley Tools. That's where you get these. So check it out. Yeah, So all that to say that it's inspired a brightening of attention for me. In a book called Wired to Create, Unraveling the Mysteries of the Creative Mind, they write about, share, the authors are Scott Barry Kaufman and Carolyn Gregory, Gregory, Gregoire, I think it's Gregory. They're writing about Georgia O'Keeffe and how Georgia O'Keeffe's, who's a painter that painted beautiful flowers, and how much attention she paid to the details of the flowers. And she said this. She said, in a way, nobody sees a flower really. It's so small, we haven't time, and to see takes time. There's an important point. Like to have a friend takes time. If I could paint the flower exactly as I see it, no one would see what I see because I would paint it small, like the flower is small. So I said to myself, I'll paint what I see, what the flower is to me, but I'll paint it big. And they will be surprised into taking time to look at it. I will make even busy New Yorkers take time to see what I see of flowers. Wonderful. Pointing out there that it takes time to see. In the same way we cultivate a friendship, we can cultivate seeing and paying close attention to how things are. And the surprise, to be surprised into the seeing, has a lovely bright energy to it. And so the authors then say, this impulse to record and create meaning of the little details and moments of life, as O'Keeffe said, to paint what I see, is arguably the birthplace of art. They're talking about creativity in this book. And they say, and it starts with being awake to the moments of our lives as they are passing. Sounds like Dharma to me. Being awake to the moments of our lives as they are passing. So, of course, it begins with mindfulness, seeing all the moments of our lives in their arising, you know, we could say being or beingness and passing. Yeah. One of the other things I'm reading these days is this book called The Grand Delusion. Does that look backwards on your screen? It probably does. I probably need to flip the camera, which I didn't do. So I'll put that in the chat, and on the YouTube version, I'll put it down below, but it's called The Grand Delusion, and by Steve Hagen. Capital. There you go. And it's What We Know But Don't Believe. He's the author of another really great book called Buddhism Plain and Simple. And I'm just starting to get into this book, but this will drive my son nuts because he's a physics specialist and is actually just finishing his degree tonight, handing in the last assignment tonight. Yay! And in this book, there's he's breaking down a lot of things to help us see more clearly how things are. And he gives a description here of this kind of zoom lens into things that we take to be so solid and real and permanent, and to really look closely. What is this that we take to be table, mug, lamp, self? So I'll just kind of paraphrase, paraphrasing physics. That just seems like a bad idea, but I'm going to do it anyways. So he gives this example here. He writes the book kind of like a dialogue between, what does he say, anyone and himself, kind of going back and forth as he breaks things down. So here he uses this example of, you could picture this in your mind's eye, a wooden table in front of you, and it's like a 1 meter by 1 meter square table. And you can feel its hardness, see the color of it, see the shape of it. You could feel the weight of it if you picked it up. You know, it seems so solid and permanent and real, uh, and persistent. It's like, it's there for a while. It's going to be around for quite a while. It's a table. And so then you take this image and project that table image up onto a screen in front of you. So now you just have the image of the tabletop in front of you on a screen. And the whole tabletop fills up the screen. And then he starts to magnify this. So in your mind's eye, you just start to imagine magnifying in to that table that's 1 meter by 1 meter. And so the first step, they just magnify it 1,000,000 times. And at that point, you can see the wood fibers really large. You can see the actual fibers of the wood. And then it continues, zooming in again. A millionth of a meter is expanded to 1 meter. And then you can see the membrane walls that enclose cell nuclei within the wood cellular structure. So from the wood fibers, now you can see the cell nuclei within that wood structure and the membrane walls of that. And then they go in again and blow that piece up. And now you can see the twisting strands of DNA within the wood. And again, then into the atom that makes up the strands of DNA. And of course, this exploration keeps going. And his point that he keeps coming to is looking at this space that within anything, when we look and look and look and look, there's more space than there is solidity and permanence and an object. And he goes into more about the surface of the atom and goes deeper into the particles and all the way down to the quarks and stuff. And so I'm not going to go there because my son will be upset if I start talking too much about things I don't understand. But I find this exciting and interesting, but also liberating, to really look closely and see, what is it? You know, all these things that I want, or all this stuff we're trying to get or get rid of, all that I want to become, all the ways I take reality, the assumption, it helps break down the assumptions of what I am taking to be real. And that helps to lessen clinging. There's less needing to get rid of anything when we can really see its empty nature. That kind of zooming in, of looking closely, we can go that direction in and into the cells and atoms and quarks. And we can also zoom out in the same way into that same sense of spaciousness. This is an excellent book for that. I have a lot of book references tonight, but this is called Emptiness, Practical Guide for Meditators by Guy Armstrong. It's really good. It's really approachably written, and he has little meditations after most of the chapters. I was really fortunate to have Guy as one of my supporting teachers on the 3-month retreat, and the teachings of spaciousness and emptiness were sublime, to say the least. So the same analysis and looking can be also taken into infinite space. That probably sounds really abstract, but I can't. We're gonna have a little bit of practice with this tonight. So I think I want to just go into the practice, and then we can not feel rushed with that, because there's several pieces to this. So I'm going to bring in some pieces from a meditation that Joseph Goldstein guides. I'll put it here in the chat for people so that you can listen to it after. You can hear Joseph guiding this, of course, better. Let me get that for you. And I'll put it down below in the YouTube version for people as well. All right. So don't listen to it now, because you got to listen to me. Oh, you're being silly tonight. So I'm going to integrate this practice that Joseph's got here on that YouTube video is really great. And there's someone that's usually in this Sangha that does this practice. I was hoping she'd be here tonight so she could talk about her experience of it. But it's a 9-minute meditation with 3 parts, 3 3-minute meditations. And Joseph describes this as, because most of everybody don't get the privilege of going on a 3-month meditation retreat. And now in COVID land, nobody's going on 3-month meditation retreats at a retreat center, because they're all closed. But so it's very hard for most of us in our daily life practice and meditation to have an experience of anatta, not self, to have direct practice with that. It's usually something that would come in a longer retreat, and there's more opportunity for that to arise. And so Joseph designed, when he was on a silent retreat, this arose for him, this 3-minute meditations, to help give us regular folk in daily life an experience of anatta, not self. Yeah. So we're going to do that tonight. And I'm also going to start with one of the pieces that Guy Armstrong has in this book called Emptiness, which is a great book. Yeah, so there will be periods of silence and some guiding as we kind of move through these different contemplations, not just contemplations, which are more thinking, but experiences. Yeah, I think that's all the preamble I'm going to say about that. Yeah. So begin to adjust your posture and get comfortable for what you need for practice. You're welcome to lay down if you want. You could dim your lights. If there's not going to be, if it's helpful for you not to be looking at a screen, you can turn away from your screen or turn it off and just listen. Whatever, putting away as many distractions as you can. All right. So the meditation is actually going to begin with eyes open, and I know some of us practice with eyes open anyways, but this will be, and then we'll move into resting the eyes either closed or downward. But to start with, you could just let your eyes remain gently open and maybe with a kind of soft peripheral vision, so that you don't have to necessarily look around your room or space, but just by resting and relaxing your eyes into a wider view, you might be able to see the room that you're in and aware of the things in your room. If you're facing a space that doesn't have any objects, you might need to kind of turn your head or not as you choose, and just to be aware of all the things in the room. There may be a table or furniture or the chair or bench that you're on. There may be art or other objects. And as you notice these things, you'll probably notice they have a name that tends to easily come with that. Memories or thoughts about these things. Some of the objects might have emotions associated with them. Just allow yourself to be aware of kind of noticing these objects in the room. You can let your eyes travel around a bit if you like, or you can just keep the eyes resting a bit wider. The memories, thoughts, emotions can also arise as they do anyways. Now, beginning to let go of the objects in the room and turn your attention a little more towards just the walls in the room and the space between the walls. The objects are still there, they haven't gone away, but you're just more fully aware of the shape, the position of the walls. Even the ones behind you, maybe that you can't see, you could feel it's there or remember and know that the wall is behind you. And the roof and the floor, or the ceiling and the floor. So there's a sense of the parameters of the room and the space within those walls. And you can either do that with eyes open, or if you feel like you can connect with that awareness now with the eyes resting, you could rest the eyes. And still aware of, it might even be a felt sensation almost of the walls and the space of the room. There may still be some thoughts and emotions that arise, but maybe there's fewer. There may be less thoughts and emotions as you just pay attention to walls and space. And now see what it feels like to let go of the awareness of walls and turn your attention a little more just to the space, the feeling, the awareness, the knowing of this space in this room. You don't need to make that happen or do anything in particular, just gently turning attention. Now, as we just rest in this spacious awareness, we're going to gently turn our attention now towards sounds. Just relaxing, open, spacious awareness. The clear, open space of knowing. And opening to the experience of sounds arising and passing. And even if you're in a quiet space, there's a sound of my voice coming and going. Perhaps sounds from your computer or lights or your body, or sounds from outside. In this relaxed and receptive awareness, there's no effort needed. You don't need to reach for, you're not making hearing happen. It's just receptive, as if your body is a microphone receiving vibrations. And as we attune to hearing, can I find what is knowing the sound? The sound is known by what? Is that something that can be found? Or are sounds simply being known without a knower? And relaxed, open, receptive. This spacious state of just knowing. We can turn our attention now to the next part of the practice. There's two ways to practice attending to impermanence here. So you can see what feels appropriate for or helpful for you. And the first part of the reflection offered by Joseph is around the impermanence of our own, all of our beings. That the cause of death for all of us is birth. Our own bodies, bodies of those we love, all of nature is of the nature to arise and pass. And this is not considered a morbid reflection and practice, but a liberating one. So if that feels appropriate and helpful to you tonight, you could turn your attention to really reflecting on your own impermanence, the true nature of this body. And the other way to practice with this is just to feel your hands here and now. Wherever your hands are resting, without needing to move them, you can feel some sensations in hands. There may be sensations of texture or temperature, pressure, of touch. Fullness or pulse, tingling. Sensations of hardness of bone, softness of flesh. And we can feel sensations of hands, letting go of or giving some freedom from the concepts of fingers and thumbs and palms, or even the concept of hands, and really just feeling sensations. the sensations of hands, you could either stay with that or let that type of awareness extend and open to the whole body. This whole body is a flowing field of arising and passing sensations that are actually free of the concept of me, of mine, of body. Looking closely and attending, seeing, knowing how it really is. And the last part of the practice now, from this receptive, relaxed, clear space of knowing, we'll turn our attention to awareness of thoughts. Stay relaxed back as if you're sitting in an empty movie theater, about halfway back, and up on the screen, you can just see thoughts arise and scroll through, arise and pass. Without being carried away with the thoughts, just seeing them almost like a bubble. You don't even need to be aware of the content of the thoughts. Sometimes you might, but just awareness. Oh, thoughts are coming and going. You don't need to try to catch them. And with this relaxed awareness of thoughts, just watching the moment of thoughts arising and passing, we can float the question, what is a thought? And who is thinking? This movie screen of thoughts is not just in front of us, it's a 360-degree virtual reality. And awareness can just watch without it becoming me and mine. And gently opening again to that sensation, the experience, the knowing of spaciousness. Space internally, externally, space between thoughts, between sounds, sensations. And as you hear the three bells, and when you begin to end your practice, see if you can notice what Joseph calls dreaming ourselves into existence. You might be able to have a felt experience of kind of coming back into a sense of self as you begin to move or open your eyes. Sometimes it's possible to keep a little thread of that kind of spacious awareness even as the practice ends, which means the practice actually is really just beginning. When the bell ends at the end of your formal practice is when the real practice is starting. Practice of life. So I'll just share a poem from Rosemary Witola Trummer called In These Halcyon Days. And sometimes she writes her poems from inspiration from other pieces of art or a line from a poem or a book. And this one is inspired by this line from A.R. Ammons in, I think, a book called Gravelly Run, where A.R. Ammons says, "For it is not so much to know the self as to know it as it is known by galaxy and cedar cone." And then Rosemary writes, "I want to know the self the way a nest might know the egg it holds, the way a feather might know a wing. I want to know the self as a bank knows a river, as wave knows water, as night knows the night. There is a kind of knowing that has less to do with certainty and more to do with meeting the world again and again as it is. I want to know the self with no name, with no story, as a stone might know it or a song." So folks that are joining on the YouTube video, I'll put the links for all the things I've mentioned down below the video, including Rosemary's beautiful poem here. And there is also links there to support myself as a teacher to continue offering and sharing Dharma, and to support True North Insight if you're able to. So thank you for tuning in on YouTube, and I'm going to stop the recording, and folks that are here in the Zoom are welcome to stay if you like.